Hey, a quick FYI. The material on this channel may seem inconsistent at times. As a gamer, I enjoy a wide range of content from simulation racing to AAA titles to indie games. I will continue any game or story as long as it still has my attention, but may drop it if I feel there is nothing keeping me on the topic. If there is any particular series you want me to continue, leave a comment and I may continue. Maybe. Hello everybody, Dark Coyote 82 here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how FIA Round 2 went for both the Nations Cup and the Manufacturers Series. Naturally, I'll be starting you off with the FIA Nations Cup, and today we're going to be hitting the Kyoto Driving Park, the Yamagiwa version in reverse, and we're going to be using the Mazda Roadster Touring Miata, or whatever the hell this thing is. I have to admit, I think that this combination here is a match made in heaven. These are very fun cars to drive. This is a very testy course that you have to know your way around, but if you do, you can have lots of fun with it in the right car. So, hey, I think this should be a fantastic race. Now, with all that being said, do not underestimate this course. This course is very tough. You do have to have a bit of a strategy coming into this one, figuring out what you need to do on each of these corners. I probably spent about 2 hours figuring out what to do on each of these lines. The other problem is that while you might know your way around, if other people don't know their way around, you're going to have a very tough time just trying to get past them, as people will be slipping and sliding and bumping into you and whatever else, such as what Kevin here is going to do to me. Another problem that comes with this course are the chicanes here and how brutal they can be on amateur drivers. You might know your way around them, however, if the person in front of you has no idea what they're doing, well then they're just going to act as a cork on a bottle and hold you up. Then there's the downhill chicane where you have a little bit of both of these situations. You can be held up, or you can have somebody go sliding into you because they just couldn't get that exit correct. However, fortunately that doesn't happen to me. I get a pretty decent lap time, 1:54. That's going to put me in 6th place on the starting grid, so at least I'm going to be farther ahead than everybody else, and I only have a few people in front to worry about. So anyway, as we sit here on the grid and wait for the race to go ahead and kick off, please go ahead and remove your hats and stand for the anthem of the FIA Nations Cup. Stunning as always, undoubtedly. Anyway, here we are, Kyoto Driving Park in Japan. We're going to have a grid start, of course with false checks. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting lineup. Can't help but notice the car in front of me has targets on the back, as if he's just expecting for me to hit him. Well, if he has a false start here at the grid, well then that's exactly what's going to happen. I sure hope we can pull this off okay. The problem with false starts is that you don't really know when that green light is going to go, and it never lines up, it never syncs. So you have to wait. Okay, good, there we go. That. Anyway, yeah, it seems like the guy in front of me in 5th place, it seems like he got it wrong, but fortunately 4th did not, otherwise that would have been a real problem. Anyway, other than that, no real issues. In fact, lap 1 really was a complete success. We had no problems whatsoever, but we couldn't make that last to lap 2. I have Sport Prof 2 in front of me here. Unable to get the chicane right, he ends up in the grass a little bit. Shouldn't be a problem, except he slides out of it. I really didn't know where to go. Gave him a small tap. I've just completely ruined his races, you see, so the game saw fit to give me a second penalty. Anyway, through the second chicane, he doesn't know how to go through this one either. I think he might have come out for a Sunday drive, but the problem is we all came out here to race. So I served my second penalty. I was really expecting even more to be stacked on top of it, but fortunately that doesn't happen. So yeah, I'm not in a very friendly mood now. I lose a couple of positions from this complete and utter nonsense. I'm going to do a suicidal move here. I'm just going to go right next to high-class janitor here. I'm not even worried about it. It's like, go ahead and test me. I'm not in the mood. Up behind K-John now. I'm going to get next to him. I'm going to full send it. However, I was expecting him to come back. He never does. That's perfectly fine with me. Instead, I'm going to park myself a little bit in front of him. Go ahead and take my position back, which was rightfully mine. We press onward here, catching up to Sport Prof. It really wasn't that hard. I think he must have made a couple of mistakes here and there, because this is lap 3 now that I've caught up to him. I just have to figure out, alright, how am I going to mess with him? Get in his head a little bit, just so then I can sneak past him with no issues. We're getting out of the right-hander that never ends. Heading up to the starting line. I've got a pretty good line behind him now. I am in his draft. I'm going to go as if on the outside. I'm going to sweep back over. He's probably thinking I'm going to dive, just send it on in, but nope, that's actually not what I'm going to do. I hit the brakes. I dare him to hit me. I'm very surprised he backed off, but perfect. I'll take it then. So anyway, press onward now into lap 4, and I am very excited to introduce you to a new face here. This was probably one of the best races, and it's all thanks to this guy that I'm about to introduce to you. As we are sweeping around, coming to the end of lap 4, you're going to see a penalty up ahead over this neon mint blue fluorescent Miata, driven by somebody by the name of FIA Round. At this point I was thinking, okay, he's just another schmuck that I have to get past. Shouldn't be too hard. I just have to wait for him to mess up on one of these chicanes, and I shouldn't have any issue getting around him. Sure enough, of course, that's going to happen. You can see he goes sliding off to the side here, hits the barrier, comes back across. He's lost quite a bit of momentum. I'm going to go ahead and cut him off on the side here, go along his left side, and there we go. We're in 4th place. Fantastic. So now I'm past him. I have my sights set on the podium. I see they're 3.5 seconds ahead. This is going to be a problem, especially when I have this shark in the water behind me. Just, wow, that's a little bit unsettling to see directly behind you, and it's even worse when it pops up right next to you. Wasn't expecting that. So, at least I control his outside line here. So we're going to run side by side. Fortunately, he doesn't have the legs to get past me. He should have just slipped into my draft, but he chooses not to. But instead what he's going to do, he's going to try my trick of going on the inside, and it just about works on me as well, except I have a little bit better control out of it, but he still is able to slip past. So about this time I'm noticing we have a very big difference in driving styles. I try to be controlled. He's just drifting all over the place. He must have traction control off. He's trying to get that last little bit of speed that he can squeeze out of his car, except, at least in my opinion, he's not doing that great of a job in controlling the car. Because I'm keeping up with him, and I'm getting close enough to get past him, but then sure enough, something happens that just prevents me from getting by. And it's nothing really on him. He's doing pretty good at keeping me at bay. But anyway, he slips into the pits. I think he's gone now. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. Next time around, I'm going into the pits. I'm hoping to have that extra life on the end here, rather than cost me at the final lap. I go ahead and pull out, set my sights on the person in front, and I don't mean 3rd, I mean 4th, as he goes whizzing on by. However, he manages to get a pretty good run out of it, and we have about a 2-second gap in between the two of us. Excuse me, 3-second gap. That's pretty problematic. It's going to take quite a while for me to close in on that, especially seeing how we're in lap 10. That means that I have to close this out at about a second a lap and still have to figure out how to get past him. At that point, I might as well go ahead and settle into 5th place, unless he does some sort of mistake. Well, there it is. Same corner as before where we had originally met. He's done it again. He is now fallen within my grasp. So now, I'm starting to develop a little bit of a theory about our friend here, Faility Live. And I want to put it to the test, see if it holds water. So I'm right up his tailpipe, and I'm going to let off a little bit, because there are only so many moves that I can do while I'm right up his ass. It's not going to work. So instead I'm going to drain out all of my speed halfway through, just so that I hit the apex 3/4 of the way in. I have a better run out. He runs a little bit wide, and I'm able to almost get past him, but it's not enough to cross the finish line with that kind of speed. So I have a little bit more info on him, but what really can I do with him? I'm going to have to figure something out here. So I've gathered what intel I can, and I'm going to try something here on lap 12. I'm going to sit back even more, because I'm starting to realize there's a little bit of a pattern here. As we enter the downward chicane, he has a whole lot of trouble heading out of it, or at least from my perspective it looks like he is. He gets a little bit squirrely at the end, and it seems as if he's just kind of shocked that he was able to survive it. And then from there he can't really concentrate all that well on the right-hander that just goes on, and it never ends. And he just loses a good amount of momentum out of it because he doesn't know how to carry it through. I, on the other hand, I do know how, but is it enough to pass him if this was the final lap? No, it is not. Well, is it enough to pass him on turn 1? No, it is not. I brake a little bit early here. I don't want to kill either of us in the process. But now I'm running out of room to pull off some sort of move to get past him. And I've been hyping this race up the entire time. Music's picking up, so it's about time that I figured out how to get around him. And I know exactly where I'm going to do it as well. This is it, do or die time. Sweeping right-hander here. I'm gonna use all the momentum I can. This time I actually do want to be right up his ass. I want him to know that I am a threat here. I'm going to apply all the pressure that I can because I want him to get as squirrely as possible, seeing how his tires are one lap older than mine. Sure enough, he crosses over the line. That should be a penalty right there, and that way I don't even have to worry about passing him anymore. But it never appears, though. So now we got to figure something else out. I'm still applying pressure. He still loses it, cuts into the grass, and as he comes back across, we're going to go side by side across the finish line. Very good race, Faility Live. Very good race. Easily one of the best races I've ever participated in. But anyway, there you have it. We have our results up there. Came in 4th place. Would have been nice if it was for a podium spot, but you know, you can't have it all, but that's alright. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the manufacturer series then. Today we're going to be hitting Monza in the Mustang Group 4. This definitely is not a match made in heaven, but I will say this, at least Monza has some very long straights that the power of the Ford Mustang can certainly be put to use. But the corners, well, I'll just have to survive the corners as they come, but that shouldn't be too hard. The Ford Mustang does very well on the track whenever it's by itself, but whenever I'm driving it around other vehicles, it just feels like it's really fat. It's a really big, beefy vehicle. And unfortunately, right here in the first chicane, we pull up right alongside the Viper. I think he braked a little bit early, but that might just be my opinion. But we compromise ourselves out of it, probably added about half a second onto our times. And that's okay. Notice he's giving me a little bit extra space cutting onto the grass, but now he's sweeping a little bit more and more onto the left as if he's trying to push me onto the grass. Don't really appreciate that. So now I've probably had about half a second added on. He brakes early, gets away from me. I don't know if it's that he's new to this course or if he's a hired assassin or something, but whatever. Just okay. Anyway, here we are, about to cross the line. Nobody else has set a time yet, so oh, look at that, I'm in first. That's fantastic. Except, obviously, that's not going to last. Just immediately somebody claims first spot. I'm actually down in 3rd. now as it is. Going around one more time. Now as we're coming around, watch this power slide into that corner. I really don't think you could ask for a better run in, and on top of that, didn't compromise the right or the left-hander on the way out. So I carried the most speed. I think that's probably the best I've ever done that corner, at least in a Group 4 vehicle. So, Ram, I shot my pants, just set a new time, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to squash him and the person on top of him. So let's go ahead, reset, get back out on the track with some fresh hard tires, even though the previous one just had 2 laps taken out of them. But here we go again. This time I'm up behind a Lexus, and you can see he's got a second penalty that he's going to have to serve about halfway through. I don't think that should be too much of an issue. In fact, this is actually going very nicely because I think I'm just close enough to catch a bit of a draft from him to get a little bit more time. He hits the brakes early once again. God, that is like seeing a rock thrown at your face when you see that approaching you. But fortunately, I'm not close enough to hit him. But man, that is one scary sight to see coming your way. Anyway, still behind him, still catching that draft, I suppose. Heading over to the second chicane now. We have somebody else in front of him, another back marker. Hit the brakes again. This time he's not as close. It's not as scary this time around. But past these bollards that have been pushed around, let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Unfortunately now, my time behind him is going to be over because he can't get either of these corners correct. He's going to come back out on the track, get past him. I've used him for what he's worth, and let's see if that took off any time for me here. Behind the BMW, tried to get a little bit of a draft off him. I don't think it works. I'm actually able to shave off a little bit of time, but it still doesn't matter. It still wasn't enough to match up with that V8 Vantage, but oh well. So we are about to go racing in a moment here, but first, of course, everybody go ahead and stand up for the national anthem of the FIA Manufacturer Series. Alright, so here we are then in Italy, in this world-famous track here. You can see me in the shot right there in the background. Always nice to start on the podium. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting lineup here. Alright, so here we are, ready to go racing. Starting in 3rd place, so already looking at a podium. It's always nice to see. We're going to have a rolling start this time around. We're not going to be looking at a grid start with false checks, so as long as AutoDrive doesn't decide to just send me into the pits or put me in a different state or a different country or whatever, I'm fine. Get passed over by the world's ugliest jets, and we are racing now. Behind the Aston Martin and the Porsche, driven by 2 Canadians, approach the first chicane. Hope that the person behind me doesn't start hearing voices in their head to just murder everyone in front of them. That doesn't happen to me, but if you look at the minimap, somebody gets sent wide, but could have been a whole lot worse, I guess. Now, can we have that luck last the entire way up to the second chicane? I have quite a bit of distance for the guy behind me, so I should be fine. But things are looking a little bit spicy up front. Aston Martin's ready to make a move, but I don't think that that's exactly what he meant to do, as he just kind of shovels the Porsche off to the side. But he gets first, so I mean, like, hey, what do I know? Clearly it worked. Alright, so here we go, approaching the Variante Ascari corners here. if I can survive these corners just fine, then in that case, I'll be right in his draft. I'll be able to keep up with him. Who knows, we might even be able to go back and forth like this all the way to the end of the race, keeping everybody else farther behind. You can tell that Ralmar's in the Lexus seems to be struggling. I don't think the Lexus is as good in straight lines as the Mustang and the Aston Martin, but we're about to find out. Anyway, right now the two of us are going back and forth, trading places, using the draft off of each other to increase the time in between us and everybody else behind us even more and more. Going into the first chicane here, both of us seem to get through okay. I think maybe I went by a little too slow. I've never been able to get those corners right for the life of me. So far we're adding more and more time in between me and third place here. Ralmar's and Lexus really isn't too much of a threat. We're approaching Curva della Roggia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm hoping he's going to mess it up again. I think he braked a little too late. Sure enough, yes he did. Tries to cut back across and cover me, but it doesn't work. So now I'm back up in first place. Alright, so moving forward into lap 3 now. We've put a pretty hefty gap in between us and third place. I'm not going to fight him for first here, not this early, because then all that's doing is just holding us up. So I'm just going to scoot off to the side, let him pass, easily as that. Hopefully then we could just play this little draft game back and forth. But I still can't get that first chicane right for the life of me. Maybe he can get the second chicane wrong, and that's what's going to keep us going back and forth. It almost looks like he cut the corner there. At least that's what I thought, but I'm not seeing a penalty pop up over his head, so... No, clearly he's good. In fact, maybe he's a little too good for me. He's a whole lot better than I am, because he's increasing that gap more and more. I'm just unable to keep up with him at this point. And in fact, if you look in the background, who is it? It's the Porsche from before that started in first place, pole position. He wants a piece of us now, and apparently he's a whole lot better. So now we're going to fast forward into lap 5. I don't know where exactly my mistake was made, but somewhere either here in the first part or the second part, you have to keep your tires on the gray stuff apparently. Otherwise it gives you a second penalty for your trouble, and it's going to kick in immediately. So I'm not exactly sure where that mistake is, because one of them they don't count, I guess. Or maybe it's both, and it gave me a half second for each of them. I guess that's also a possibility. But either way, I'm going to serve my penalty. My nice and hefty 3-second gap to the Porsche is now just going to drop immediately. I suppose we're going to pass a reminder here of what could have been. I almost picked Renault for this because I actually have no problem with the Group 3 variation, but there goes the Megane with just no speed behind it whatsoever, so that's what could have been. I'm glad that's not me, and I went with Ford instead because I really do like the GTLM. But anyway, moving forward, lap 6. As you can see, we're now into a second gap. And I make a mistake, of course, because now I just can't concentrate watching that number drop. I'll go ahead and let the Porsche pass here. I'm not going to fight him too much. He's earned that position for me, I'll have to say that. But at least now I'm in his draft, so maybe I can pick up off of him now. Look at that corner, that was just awful. It was terrible. Couldn't concentrate, apparently. So now I'm going to do everything in my power to keep up with the Porsche. I'm going to try to have a minimal amount of mistakes. Just keep my head down, focus. But evidently that's not working. As you can see, we now have a 3-second gap to the Porsche. So there is no draft, period. I think the draft is 1.1, 1.2, and I'm at 3. So nope, definitely not going to catch up to him at this point. But at the same time, though, the Lexus that's behind me, he clearly can't keep up with me either. So this is where the race actually got really, really dull. I was thinking at one point, well, maybe we could have 2 separate strategies going on. I wonder if these guys are going to pull into the pits, because that was my plan. In thinking maybe these tires really just are not doing the trick for me. Let's go ahead and swap them out. This is a chance for 4th place to pass me. And now I've got to earn my position back. Except no, he pulled into the pits as well. So I'm going to get a little bit of gas just to make sure that I'm good. But we see both 4th and 5th have pulled into the pits. So I won't have to worry about them passing me. But I noticed that 1st and 2nd did not. So maybe then their tires are just going to be dead and I'm going to keep up. I'm not really sure. We're just going to have to find out in a little bit. We're going to cut to a commercial break. I'll come back when something interesting happens.
I love refrigerators.
Alright, so we're back here at Monza on lap 12, trying to make no mistakes. No mistakes through the corners! Pull it back on. Other than that, nothing bad happening. Still here. As you can see, it got worse. Now have a 14-second gap to the guys ahead. 8 seconds behind. I was hoping that, you know, their tires would start wearing out, but evidently they're just not affected. I will have to give it to both Voltex and I don't even know what that name is, Indeletrica or whatever the fuck. Fucking Russian bullshit, I don't know. Anyway, both of these guys, wow, hot damn. Gotta tip my hats to them, because they did amazing. They did not pull into the pits, and yet they just managed to keep that gap growing just more and more. I imagine the way that I was getting frustrated that I couldn't keep up with the Porsche. Probably the Porsche driver is frustrated, can't keep up with the Aston Martin. And Lexus is getting frustrated with me, and so forth. But yeah, I just found it pretty crazy to see. I tried to watch back the replays, but I wasn't able to really get any notes because unfortunately the replay just has them kind of glitching all over the place, so I couldn't really get a good read on where their braking points were and whatever else, but I'll just have to accept. They were much better drivers than I was. In the end, I finished exactly where I had started, 3rd place, still a podium, I'm still on the steps, so I'll have to count that as a victory. Overall, looking at the results, I'd say I really don't have anything to complain about. I had a 4th place that was very hard fought, but lots of fun. I had a podium that I certainly feel like I had earned 3rd place, at least in comparison to everybody else, so I really can't say too much. Anyway, right now I'm working on FIA Round 3, promise, and then I have something else that I'm looking to upload in just a little bit. So anyway, if you like the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that other bullshit, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.